Hey there my lovelies, and welcome to my booktube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is Lee, and today we're going to do a tag, and the tag I'm going to do today is Year in Review book tag. And since it's already 2022 and I barely read any books in 2022, I decided to go for my year 2021. And I think I didn't even do some sort of summary video in which I spoke about my favorites or about the books that disappointed me. I can ignore all those ideas now and just do this tag because it's very diverse, and there are many different questions and many favorite books in here and not so favorite books. So I think the questions should cover my entire 2020 reading year. And this said, I was tagged by Ange at Books with Ange. I still hope I pronounce you right. If I don't, please tell me. And the original tag was created by Dom at Dominish Books. I actually looked that one up so that I can give you the right info, and I will also make sure to write it down in the description box. So if you want to visit Dom's or Ange's channel, you can do it down below. Okay, this said, Year in Review book tag, and let's just do this. Okay, so the first question is your favorite book of the year. And I really don't have to think hard about that one, because my favorite book of the year 2021 was actually, I think, probably the first book, or at least, I don't know, one of the first books I read in 2021, and it was House of Earth and Blood, or Crescent City, by Sarah J. Maas. And I loved that book so much because I think it's kind of different than what Sarah J. Maas usually writes. I mean, not in the way of fae. We have fae, we have angels, we have sprites. How are they called? I don't know. Anyway, we have all those different creatures, and they are all packed into one massive book, and I just loved the characters. Hunt, Atala, and Bryce. Oh, they were amazing. They were so great. I loved all the fairies and the different, I don't know, creatures, species, whatever, just packed into one book, and it was honestly such an emotional roller coaster. I cried buckets of tears at the ending, and I have no idea how Sarah is going to top this, how she intends to write an even better book with book 2, because this was only just the beginning of this series, and book 2 is going to be released this year, so you can bet everything that I will read that one. So yes, favorite book of the year, hands down, definitely House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Question number 2. Your favorite series started this year but not finished. Let me think about it. I think that would be Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neville, I think. Neville? I think it's a French author. It sounds French. I don't know if it's a French author or not, but I'll look it up, and I definitely write his correct name in the description box down below. If the author is watching this, I'm very sorry if I butchered your name. Okay, this said, Sleeping Giants is the first book in the Thames Files. And I don't know if you already followed my channel back then, but I actually spoke about this book in one of my to-be reads, I think, and I was so skeptical about the massive hand in the earth. Everyone who followed me back then knows how skeptical I actually was, but the book was great. I think it kind of reminded me a little bit of Illuminate from the way it was written, because we have protocols, we have chats, we have video footage, sometimes we do, and from that it reminded me of Illuminate a little bit, but the book certainly is totally different and stands on its own, and it was amazing. There was a lot of humor, if you like that, a lot of science, and very interesting topics. So if you like sci-fi and if you read in the genre of science fiction, I'm sure you will love that one. So yes, favorite series I started this year but didn't finish because I will have to borrow the other 2 books. I think there are 2 books left in the series. Okay. Question number 3. Your favorite series finished this year? I actually managed to finish a couple of series this year. It weren't many, and I think I will just go with The Folk of the Air by Holly Black, and I read The Wicked King in 2021, and I read The Queen of Nothing. So I read 2 books in the series. The first one I already read the year before, so it's definitely a series I went through and finished, and it's one of my favorite series ever. I mean, I absolutely loved the second book. It was amazing. It was so awesome. I loved it. All those court intrigues and Jude and Cardan and their enemies to lovers and just everything. You know I'm a sucker for fairy books. So that was perfect. And still not sure how I feel about the third book in the series, The Queen of Nothing. It was a little bit chaotic at times, a little bit strange, especially the ending. Everyone who read it will know what I mean. To those of you who haven't read it yet, just remember what I said now, and when you are at that point, you will know. So yes, but overall, in general, this series was great, and I just loved it because fairies. Do I have to say more? Okay, next question before I continue to babble here. Question number 4. Your favorite new author discovered this year? And I think I read a lot of new authors in 2021. Probably every second book was a new author for me last year. But one of the books that really stuck with me, and after reading it, I was like, I want to read more of that author, and that author was great, is Felix Ever After from Case and Calendar, and I definitely want to read more books of them. I loved Felix Ever After. Felix Ever After was such a thought-provoking, amazing book with a stunning cover and the colors, and I just loved everything about that book. It made me think so much, and I love it when a book provokes me to think outside of my box and to think about myself, how I don't know, how others perceive me, how I perceive them, how I am seen with other people's eyes, and how I want to be seen. So that book just, whoa, it was perfect, and I can highly recommend it, seriously. So yes, favorite author, Case and Calendar. So let's head to question number 5, and that would be your favorite new character of the year. Okay, that's going to be an unconventional pick, but I absolutely loved Jake Rothman from Jake of Hearts and Other Parts. I'm pretty certain the majority of you haven't heard of Jake yet, of the book or the author, but I loved that book. It was amazing, and it's basically about Jack, who is an openly gay teen, and he starts to write a sex column for his schoolmates, and his best friend asks him to write that column, and at first he doesn't want to give sex advice. But then he just jumps into it and gives the first advice, and people seem to love it, and then it continues. And there's also, which is happening pretty often in books, some blackmail theme going on, because obviously Jack is drawing unwanted attention and is getting blackmailed to do certain things, which was a really upsetting part of the book. I was very upset by this plot part. So if you don't like blackmailing, and if this is a trigger for you, you've been warned. Trigger warning, huge trigger warning. So yeah. But in general, I just loved Jack, because Jack was such an open character. He was open about his sexuality. He was giving real and solid advice, and I think a lot of teens would need a Jack in their life, because he had really an answer to everything, and it was just a really down-to-earth and honest answer. And I think books like that are important and aren't talked about very often, but I think they are needed. They are definitely valid, and I'm certain a lot of teens would like to read books like that. So yes, Jack Rothman is my hero. Yeah, let's just go to question number 6, and that's your favorite new release of the year. And I didn't read a lot of releases last year because I was way too busy with work, and I couldn't, I don't know, get a lot of arcs, or I wasn't really able to keep up with all the releases. But I got an arc for that one, and I spoke about it. It's If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich. And I just loved that book. It has everything I love in a book. It had a band, a found family. It had an MM couple that needs to come to terms with being in a relationship together in the band, and I just loved it. I love this book so much. You have no idea how much I love this book. Yes, the two main characters, Zach and Ruben, were sometimes super annoying, and I often thought if they would communicate better, the problem would be solved. The parents of the band members are an entirely own chapter. But in general, I love this. I love this so much. So yeah, If This Gets Out was definitely my favorite release of last year. Your favorite reread of this year? I didn't reread a lot of books either. I think I reread Harry Potter, but another series I love dearly, and I actually reread the first book of the series last year. is Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. And it's about fairies and the different courts and the intrigues and the fighting between the fairies, and I just love it. It has some of my all-time favorite characters. I think it was the book that got me into fairies, because Melissa Marr has been around for a very long time, and this series was the first fairy series I ever read, so I love to come back to it. I love the characters, they grew on me so dearly. So yeah, that would be my favorite reread of last year. And now let's come to question number 8, and that is your biggest surprise of the year. My biggest surprise of 2021. There were a lot of surprises. I could go with Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand, but I don't think I will go with it. Let's pick a rather unknown book here, and that would be 10 Tales of the Dark Tomorrow by Kevin A. Kuhn. And Kevin and I have a long history of author and reviewer. I don't know when he offered me to read his first book, but I read it back then and I really liked it. And last year, or I think it was even in 2020, he offered me to read 10 Tales of the Dark Tomorrow, and I said yes, of course, I want to read it because I really like his books, and he's an indie author and he needs all the support he can get. So if I love an indie author, I try my best to support them, and I said yes. And I was really surprised by those 10 stories. As the title already says, it are 10 short stories, and they are some sort of mixture of the horror genre and science fiction. And I loved all those 10 stories. I read one of those stories each day, and it was great. It was something very untypical for me to read because I usually don't read in that genre. But I really enjoyed all the stories. They made me think a lot, and yeah, it was a very positive and good surprise. So Kevin A. Kuhn, 10 Tales of the Dark Tomorrow. Question number 9, your biggest disappointment of the year. Where do I even begin? My biggest disappointment of 2021. Let me think. I think it's also a book I read at the beginning of the year, and I just go with it because I really love the first trilogy of this, and I'm talking about the selection here. But at the beginning of 2021, I decided I would read the 2 other books, book 4 and 5 in the series, that are about America's and Maxon's daughter. And this is no spoiler because we all know that Maxon and America were going to end up. So yeah, it was clear from the moment we started to read the selection from America's point of view. Yeah. Anyway, so definitely no spoiler. And it's from the perspective of Evelyn, their daughter, and it's named The Heir. And by the way, a very fitting title because she is their heir. But no, it just didn't work for me. This book didn't work for me. It had the same concept as the selection, but I don't know, America's daughter, Evelyn Shreve, yeah. I have no words for her. She was such a spoiled brat that didn't even care about all the people around her, and I just couldn't with her. And because I disliked the MC so much, I really couldn't enjoy the book. I mean, I loved all the selected boys that are kind of trying to get together with her, but no, I definitely didn't like Adeline. I even finished the series by reading the 5th book, because once I start a series I want to know how it ends, even if I don't like it. I never DNF'd the book. Did I ever mention that? Anyway, that's beside the point. So I even read the 5th book of the series and it was better, but I think it still wasn't great, and yeah, no, that was a little bit disappointing and not for me. I'm pretty certain there are a lot of people that will say they loved Adeline, they loved her character arc and the story surrounding her, but it just wasn't for me. Not my cup of tea. Yeah. Good. This out of the way, let's get to the last question, which is question number 10. And question number 10 is the one book from this year you'd recommend to anyone. Okay. I had to think long and hard about that one, because a book I would recommend for anyone is such a particular way to describe a book, and I read in a lot of genres that aren't for everyone, so it's not easy to pick a book that I would recommend to everyone, because I always warn people and I have the tendency to say trigger warnings and to I don't know, to focus on what the reader wants to read. I mean, I give my besties constantly books and recommendations and they always love them, and that's because I know what they like to read in books. So something to find what everyone can read isn't easy, but I think it's safe to go with this book, and that would be I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. So for everyone who doesn't know I Was Born for This already, it's about Angel, who is a huge fan of a band, and the lead singer of this band is Jimmy Kagarichi, and she loves him. And of course we have a lot of LGBTQ plus characters in this book, because it's written by Alice Oseman, and Alice Oseman writes them like no other author I know. So basically those two meet under certain circumstances and spend some time with each other. It's not a love story, going to tell that here, but it's mostly about band life, about the relationship of the band members with each other, about what it means to be an idol and a star, and what it means to be a part of the fandom. And I think it was just done so well, and it was such a great and, I don't know, interesting story. I gobbled it up like nobody's business. And I think it's really a book everyone can read. It's really harmless. There is nothing extreme going on. It's just a really lovely and nice story. And yeah, that would be the book I recommend to everyone, especially if you love bands and fandoms and found family tropes. So yes, I'm already at the ending of this tag now. I decided not to tag anyone because, quite honestly, I'm very late to the party already, because this video will go up I think at the end of January or at the beginning of February. So I'm not going to tag anyone, but if you want to do this tag, feel free to do it. I would love to hear your answers. And once again, a huge thank you to Ange for tagging me for this and for thinking of me. And yes, I think there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, especially in COVID times like now when the numbers are rising once again. So please, please take care and stay safe. And well, see you around the next time. Bye.